Next speaker is Ihor Sukhenko from Kurdyumov Institute for Metal Physics of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. And he will be talking about perovskite stability, crafting and protecting layer for sustainable solar cells with the use of synchrotron-based X-ray spectroscopy techniques. So please welcome. You're still muted, I believe. You're still muted, your microphone.
Something happened with the presentation.
Now we can hear you.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, the thing is that the presentation on site is something happened to the projector and we need to fix it. Just one minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, now it's fine. Probably. No, not sure.
Yeah, we can see your presentation. We can hear you. So.
Let's see. No, I know that you can see it, but here on site in the room, actually, there are some technical problems.
So in the case if projector just there, probably the rest people can just see it on screen.
Okay, we are switching to Zoom now, and okay. Greetings, dear colleagues. I am Ihor Sukhenko, a PhD student from the Institute of Metal Physics, from the group of Professor Karlewski, and I am going to tell you about ways to address the stability issue in the hybrid perovskite solar cells. And first of all, I wanted to thank the organizers of this symposium, and in particular, Daniel Babic, for inviting me. And with this, we start. Okay. Yeah, perhaps I do not need to tell you about the major importance of solar energy for humanity, but one thing to say is that in recent years, the solar plant capacity has been expanding exponentially and exceeding all even optimistic assessments. And with this rises also the demand for better and more efficient materials for solar cells. And in the past 10 or so years, significant scientific attention has been attracted to the new class of photovoltaic materials, namely the hybrid perovskite class, which is, you can see the molecule right here. It consists of it assumes the perovskite crystal structure, and it consists of methyl ammonium, mostly molecule here in the center, surrounded by lead atoms at the corners in octahedral coordination with a halide anion, which is usually either chlorine, bromine, or iodine. And the reason why they attracted so much attention is their photovoltaic efficiency, which now reaches up to 30%, which is vastly, well, it's significantly more than pure silicon can achieve. Also, they are much cheaper to produce because silicon, to achieve sufficient efficiency, needs to be processed in a clean room and be grown as a single crystal, whereas to manufacture perovskite cells, you don't need such extreme conditions. Another thing is that there are no such extreme requirements to the purity because it has been known that the defects in the structure and the defect states in the gap do not pose such a significant threat to the photovoltaic characteristics. Well, and by now, there are even some commercial applications, although very limited yet, of those type of solar cells. Here, for example, you can see that there's already an experimental solar plant in China using perovskite cells. There's a British company, Oxford PV, which is, I believe, one of the leading manufacturers of. They actually produce tandem cells, hybrid perovskite plus silicon. And a Panasonic company also presented some windows that are covered with the photovoltaic layer comprised of a perovskite cell. However, not everything is so bright because otherwise they would be everywhere by now. And there are some significant challenges to the widespread adoption of perovskites here. And the most important is stability under actual operation conditions in the atmosphere. So this hybrid perovskites tend to be chemically unstable when exposed to oxygen, moisture, and irradiation. And moreover, this instability, when it leads to chemical degradation, not only it drastically reduces the efficiency of a solar cell, also may have some environmental hazards because of lead. Lead is somewhat toxic to human health and to the environment. And those are the issues that hinder the widespread adoption of the perovskite-based materials. However, there might be some remedies to address this obstacle. And one of them would be to encapsulate this perovskite-based working layer in some sort of a protective coating. Right. However, in order to choose one properly, we need to first to understand how this degradation under environmental conditions happens. And there is extensive literature in this regard. I will not go into the details. Just briefly mention that, unfortunately, the three main factors that contribute to this degradation is moisture, oxygen, and illumination are precisely those factors that are required to be compatible with working solar cell. Well, as for oxygen, actually, it is known that it contributes to the degradation only under illumination, because in the dark, it does not. Somewhat, this suggests that the defect states formed by oxygen somewhat, well, there's a process has been suggested that has to do with the relaxation of the excited photoelectrons into those defect states that contributes to the formation of the different types of chemical bonds. But water is also troublesome in this regard because under exposure to water, some additional phases may form, such as perovskite hydrides, that further leads to the irreversible degradation of the molecules. And all of these processes are exacerbated when exposed to radiation. And the basic process that happens is that one of the halide anions in the octahedrals detaches and forms lead iodine molecule, which travels outside of the cell and diffuses in the material. And this makes the whole structure unstable. It leads to the release of the central methylammonia molecule from the structure, which completely disintegrates the molecule further. Right. And this leads us to the solutions that has been proposed to tackle this issue. And as I already mentioned, the main one is to use a protective layer for the encapsulation of the working layer. And our idea basically is to use compounds based on calcium hydroxyapatite family. Why choose them specifically? Well, there are several reasons to that. First of all, they are, of course, transparent in the optical range that are required for solar cell functioning. Secondly, their crystal geometry, such as unit cell size, are compatible and similar to that of the hybrid perovskites. Other advantages is that they are known and even used industrially as very good sorbents. And this would very much help to capture those lead atoms whenever the degradation still actually occurs. And this is in regards to environmental protection. There are even some studies have been done that demonstrate some secondary photo emission that actually may contribute to the increase of overall photovoltaic efficiency in those composite cells. Well, but in order to test this idea, we of course need to study the interaction of the protective layer with the working layer. And in order to understand the mechanism that contribute to the protection and devise the most effective configuration, we need to, of course, get insights into the local crystal environment, chemical bonds, their nature, distribution of different atoms, especially in the interface layer. There has been already some work done in our group, in our lab by our group. And here I'll present some of the data available at this moment. The thin films of calcium hydroxyapatite has been deposited, and the images were obtained with the atomic force microscopy. And different types of doped apatite compounds were also tested, and their band gap were measured, because this is obviously a very important property for photovoltaic applications. And moreover, here in the middle, you can see the X-ray photoelectron spectrum of the perovskite here. This is the lead iodine perovskite. And we actually observed almost in real time this process of decomposition. Of course, in the XPS experiment is very much exacerbated because it's exposed to the X-rays, not to the ambient solar light. And this is what allowed us to see this decomposition almost in real time, for instance. So from scan to scan, the single peaks that corresponded to the chemical bonds in the perovskite structure, they were splitting into well, double peaks firstly, that were interpreted as lead iodine molecules, and then further split into the additional peaks that were interpreted as pure metallic lead. So this is how we observed this degradation almost in real time there. And on the left, you can see quite an interesting result. This is actually scanning tunneling microscopy picture of zinc oxide mixed with the calcium hydroxyapatite and deposited via magnetron deposition as a thin film. Now, why zinc oxide? Is because if we return to the basic layered structure of the solar cell, the zinc oxide is often suggested to be used as an electron transport layer in the solar cell, right? And it's actually adjacent to the perovskite working layer. So this is how this, one of the ways this encapsulation might happen. So if the transport layer is already somehow mixed or combined with the protective layer, it may form this complete structure. And what was found there is that this composite zinc oxide plus hydroxyapatite film has pronounced nanostructure and texture that also showed quite high electrical conductivity, which was not expected for pure calcium hydroxyapatite, because as you can see, it has a quite large band gap. But here in this composite structure, the electrical conductivity was reasonably high, which suggests it's possible for future use as in combination with the electron transport layer of the solar cell. But as you can see on this picture, and also on the right-hand side picture, these films of the apatite layer can not necessarily have a perfect crystal structure. Their structure actually depends on the deposition method, especially in case of magnetron sputtering deposition. There might be some disorder, some important disorder even, or some nanoclusters forming. And of course, we are, in this regard, we are limited with the lab-based equipment available to test this local structure in particular. And with this, I'll slowly transition into the synchrotron-based experiments that are envisaged. And here, I'll briefly say a couple of words about EXAFS, which is the extended X-ray absorption fine structure spectroscopy. This method utilizes the process of when the sample gets illuminated by an X-ray, the atom under study emits a photoelectron, and you get an absorption peak. But this photoelectron actually can interfere after the absorption with the neighboring atoms and having, of course, wave-like properties, scatter back to the original atom and disrupt its electronic structure in a way. And as a result, we see the oscillation in the absorption spectrum appearing. And these oscillations are actually modulated by the spatial distribution of the neighboring atoms. And this is how you actually may get insight into the local atomic environment around a certain specific atom, even if your structure is disordered. Right. So interestingly enough, there has been already some very preliminary, but nevertheless interesting results obtained in our lab in the past. Professor Karbivsky has actually designed at some point a lab-based prototype of the EXAFS experiment. And I find this particularly fascinating that it has been obtained some spectra of real materials. Like here you can see actually the spectrum of strontium apatite. Yeah, it is not the one that was proposed, but still very relevant as an example. However, this is of course just a glimpse, and neither the resolution nor the reasonable time available does not allow to obtain some serious.
I'm sorry, I would ask you to move a bit faster because you're out of time.
That is, yeah, thank you. That is why we're particularly interested in performing the actual synchrotron-based experiments to test this structure. And also, in addition to EXAFS, the X-ray fluorescence measurements would be especially relevant too, because as I said, when we are studying the degradation processes, the migration of ions are specifically important in the interface region. So we can trace the state of decomposition of the perovskite by tracing the distribution of certain concentrations of atoms in real space with it. Right, and with this I slowly come to the conclusion, which is, of course, talking about synchrotron experiments. Primarily, we are interested in the collaboration with Solaris, and it already has some beamlines that may allow to perform such experiments, but the project by the Light for Ukraine initiative that has been presented by Luke Pathy, for example, here today is extremely relevant for, let's say, for example, for our application. Having the X-ray absorption adopted beamline in the standard X-ray range is indeed what is extremely relevant again. And of course, with our idea, we can have some proposed experiments to work there in future. And with this, I thank you for the attention. And well, of course, I hope that most of you share of our dream to have at some point not only light for Ukraine, but in some happy future, the light in Ukraine too. And I am ready to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you very much for a very nice talk. We have time maybe for one short question.
So my question is simple. Did you already prepare your proposal for example, Astra Beamline at Solaris?
Thank you for the question. Not yet, because current call for proposals is closed as far as I know, and the next one will be in the spring. So we plan to submit in the next season, probably, if everything is like gonna work out with the samples, because in the conditions of war, they're not necessarily always like everything can be perfectly planned, but yeah, we do plan to do it in the near future, let's say.
Amazing. So, and on this inspiring